All right, good afternoon. It's Tuesday, August 10th, about 4:15. Tonight is passenger side outer sill day. So that's my one and only goal for the evening. Anything outside of that is gravy. Couple things I need to square up before I do that. I want to clean this area up here, get some of that rust out of there, surface stuff, get everything primed and ready. In hindsight, these holes here that I'd put in when I was drilling out this is from the black car, if you remember, the holes here that I put in when drilling it out, I probably should have filled, but I don't know. So the other thing I got to do is figure out, I can get to the back of it from about here over, but not over here, so I'm not too sure. I might just be able to plug those up, but I should have done that. It'd been easier to do that with it on the bench. Anyway, do that. I never did get around to welding a little seam welds on the A post there, and I'm not too sure that I'm going to do anything with this corner here because it's going to be covered and that's all going to be filled and welded with a bead. So I may just leave that the way it is. I got to think about that a little bit, take care of the front here and get that welded up and squared away. And I got to take care of all that and get everything primed. I think I said that already. Take care of all that before I put the sill on, because once the sill goes on, that's about it. The sill needs some attention. If you remember from my last video, it's a little uneven as far as the curves go on it. They're not real tight. The back end especially flares up a little bit, and this whole union here is kind of curved up and around and everything. So I'm going to take care of that as well. But that's the goal for the evening. I'm going to square up anything I can before I shoot this with primer. But that's going to be the first thing that I do there. Get everything shot with some primer and then go from there. All right, quick update. Couple things to point out on this sill that I've run into already before I tried to fit it. I have before and after shots of this still photos, but you can see here this where the edge comes up and goes straight up to go into the door sill. Right now that looks like a relatively clean 90-degree bend, but originally, let me see if the other one's got it on there. It's not a nice clean bend. I gotta open the door. Hold on. All right, well, this side was actually in pretty good shape. Anyway, over here, you'll have to look when I do the blog right up. That was not a nice 90-degree angle. The other one, both sides kind of suffer from this, and for whatever reason, this side is worse. You can see how there's a little gap there. This is the driver's side. This gap is even worse, and you can see that angle is not a nice sharp 90 degrees. It kind of curves up. If you look at the originals, it doesn't have that. They're a solid piece there. So my intention is, on both of them, but I'll stick with the driver's side or passenger side for now, is I'm going to weld that gap shut in a couple spots. I may just tack it to kind of get fitting going. There's a little overhang there too. But anyway, get that going. And then what I did to knock this one more square is I essentially stuck it in the vise like this so that I had a nice sharp angle, and then banged the side to give me that angle. Now this might not be the right way to set up the vise to do that for that particular piece, but it seems to be working. Another thing that I got is this old guy. I bought this at my favorite Harbor Freight. I don't even know how long ago, but it's been a while. Not shortly after I bought the car, and it didn't work for what I had intended to use it for. I think I was playing with the battery at that time, but I tell you what, it works really, really good for these little seams to keep these square and to get them lined up flush with the car at various ways. So where I may not have recommended it before, I certainly am now, especially because I don't have to bang it. You can see I've already kind of marked the paint up a little bit there, trying to bang this flush on the anvil, so maybe that was a mistake. But anyway, some things that I'm looking at that may not be obvious and that you may run into when you're in a similar spot. So hopefully that helps. All right, 5:30. I think I got the final fit, or pretty close to it, on the sill here. You can see the gap here that I'm suffering. Not too bad. Pretty happy with that. except for that guy right there. That's kind of a big one. So I'm going to try to finagle this out a little bit and try to flush it up, and then probably, frankly, bang into that a little bit just to kind of get it close. You can see the brass there and everything that the factory did with brazing. So obviously this was not that beautiful of a fit. So they would just braze it, I assume, and then grind it relatively smooth. I'm not going to worry about the lack of B-post there. Just going to leave that and weld it all together. Moving down here, I got that tacked together and brought that down. That kind of cinched everything up. This sticks out a little bit, so I'll have to bring that in when I put that transition piece. The other spot that I want to show you is up here. Let me take this off. Here, essentially between the firewall and the B-post, or excuse me, the A-post in the front here of the upper, or correction, the lower A-post. So I had to grind this almost square. A lot of it hung down, but again, you can see a lot of brazing there. So while I think I may have cut into some of the real metal, I think a lot of it was the brazing. I had to take off the edge of the post here, the lower portion of the A-post, kind of bring a little bit of that out. And yeah, outside of that, it was just banging and nailing and moving and jostling and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to weld up this seam right here, take care of that real quick. And then the other thing that I got to do and fit is, and this may, who knows, this may change the whole thing, and kind of forgot, frankly, is that front end cap. So that might be a little bit of a pain in the rear. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weld this seam together, get that cleaned up, and then drill a hole in the front of the sill so that I can attach the front cap at one capture point. And then I think we're just going to have to beat the heck out of that thing into submission. Transitions from the inside of the sill to the outside of the firewall there, so that's a little odd of a transitional piece, but we'll get there. All right, it's about 10:07. Not going as fast as I wanted, but it's moving along. That's fine. At least I'm not getting really stuck. So I'm working on fitting the front cap here. It's not all that fun, but it's not horrible. So I got some gap in there between the top of the sill and the bulkhead, and you can see how beat up the bulkhead is. So that'll come in a little bit as I fit this cap a little bit better, but I just intend to beat the bulkhead back out, essentially, to meet the trim piece there of the sill. I got one screw in the cap. I'm going to put a couple more in there. You may or may not be able to see that little space that's going on in there. Just kind of flush that up a little bit. So things that I had to do, I shaved the very front of the A-post, the lower A-post. It's got like a lip that sticks out. I had to shave that down a little bit just so that this curved lip here, and I don't really understand why that's shaped like that. But anyway, that curved lip there can fit flush. I still have some work to do. You can see that that's not fully in there. Again, the typical, you got a nice curve here, and it's not a sharp one, so I just got to continue to work this metal back, and I'm just using my flap disc to do that. And I'm going to have to probably redo that piece right there, that transition piece there, which is upsetting, frankly, but I didn't do a real good shot in the first place. But that's essentially how it's gonna lay. You see that I got a little bit of a gap there. I worked on that as best I could there. It's just not something that's going to come in. I think this part of the B-post has been beaten a little bit just over the years or whatever at the factory, so I'm just going to have to kind of make that work. But I got another millimeter or two to come back, which is going to, there's going to be fits here and there, but so I'm going to pop this off, drill some more holes, and get this cap screwed down a little bit tighter just to kind of keep it flush to get this little gap out of there and keep going. But that's really the only thing. And and that big huge gap there, you can almost stick my fingertip in there. Essentially, I intend to do the same thing with that. This whole thing will slide over another couple millimeters as I clear this ridge here, and once I get to that point, then I'll look at lining everything up. So like I said, it's going slow, but at least it's going. Well, I guess I need to take that off. That looks like pitting. That'd be unfortunate. Anyway, we'll go from there. All right, 7:30. Not going to be getting the sill in tonight, but I think I might get to, you know, all but welding. So this fitting this end cap in here and getting that lined up, that's a real pain in the rear. And what it's doing, because this is not closely aligned to the bulkhead, you can see the gap there. It's pushing the whole sill. It's bringing the sill forward because I can't push it back enough because the angle's not right. So I'm losing about 1 millimeter or 2 in the back. So when I, you know, bang it to try and get it to fit, it kind of sucks the whole thing forward. So even though my measurements need to line up, I regret cutting this a little bit. I'm not sure. Ultimately, I may not regret it. But you can see the gap there. But the gap is matched by how much the sill needs to come back. So I'm looking at it about 92.5 centimeters is what I need from my point here to the edge of the sill. Excuse me. And I'm looking at about 92.7 or so. So just a couple of millimeters, pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down. All the surfaces that need to get primed, I'm going to prime. I'm going to try to prep it with some punch holes, though my punch has still been giving me fits, so I may just hold off on that and get the end cap had a bunch of bubble rust in it, so I'm going to scrape all that down and get that all cleaned up. Get everything primed, and maybe, I don't know, I may have to reprime everything just for because I'm going to scratch everything up. But you can see in here, hopefully anyway, the shadow is going to make it kind of tricky. But you can see in there kind of how that stuff mates up. I got some screws in there holding it in. You can kind of see those and where the A-post meets up. So everything's pretty flush in there. Still some light holes up there. That guy right there shouldn't be there. But that'll get taken care of with tacking it in, I think, and bringing the A-post in to meet. So there you go. So not as far as I wanted to get. I think this will be the final post unless something happens in the next 30 minutes or so, but I doubt it. So yeah, a bunch of trial and error, but it's good. So it's going the way that I want it so far. The transition piece looks really good. I gotta clean this thing up, but there's very little gap there, you know, in between the transition piece and where it needs to fit. So I'm happy with that. So there you go. That's it for the night. I'm not too sure what my schedule looks like over the weekend. I know I got a hockey game to go to. First hockey game of the season for us, so that'll be exciting. But there you go. So like if you like it. Subscribe, please. And we'll grow the channel. I got some work to do on the website. But other than that, have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.